Fresh allegations sourced from bylines are coming out in regards to Dan Wootton, and it is just not looking good for him. This is the second part of their investigation, and there are a lot of shocking details. Hey guys, it's Murad Morali. Hope you guys are all doing well today. Back again with another video. If you have not subscribed, guys, click that button. It is daily and consistent content, and let's get straight into this video, guys. Click that button and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it. So we have Dan Wootton, who's been the subject now in this article of significant bullying claims from colleagues whilst working at The Sun. The allegations against a journalist today, a star presenter from GB News, and it follows revelations of, catfishing allegations and also drugging and R-word allegations from sex workers who came out and spoke. Of course, they've obviously declined to speak out. In one of the cases, a very senior member of The Sun team took a kitchen knife to a meeting with the former editor of the newspaper with the intention of slitting their own wrists in front of the executive, who had sided with Wootton in a dispute ultimately settled for a six-figure sum. The Sun made the payout at the 11th hour at the steps of an employment tribunal in 2018, at which emails from Wootton disclosed to the employee's lawyers would have entered the public record and led to judicial findings of fact. Former staff have told byline investigators how Wootton continuously tried to make people admit they were bisexual or gay. He challenged people on their sexual orientation all the time. Several sources have spoken out of the sexual harassment of male colleagues, while at least 2 female colleagues were reduced to tears daily by his conduct. Naming 3 particular targets of very, very inappropriate behavior, they said he sexually harassed 3 male colleagues all the time. One would come in and Dan would often comment on the way he looked and goad him, saying, "Are you sure you want to be married? We all know you're gay." He was pressurizing them to turn gay and acting like it was a joke. But people, men, women, everyone who heard were visibly uncomfortable, especially as it was coming from a boss. A different source said, "You were either with him or against him. If you were against him, he would make your life an absolute misery. And if you were with him, he would treat you as a slave. He'd demand people run errands for him, get him food or drinks, or do his dry cleaning. It was so demeaning, but it amused him. If you wanted to stay on your job, there was no choice but to endure." Byline Times can reveal how another complainant started losing their hair with stress after working closely with Wootton, whose conduct at The Sun's executive editor was characterized as being one who considered himself untouchable. He made you feel helpless. Another News UK staffer was marched from the company's headquarters after being undermined and constructively dismissed for months and months by Wootton before standing up to him with a complaint to the paper's then editor. The staffer said it was ridiculously stressful. He would constantly condescending and sarcastic. Diaries of his behavior were kept. The things he was doing was ridiculous. As the boss, he had control over the company's payment system. He would sabotage other journalists. He would go into the payment system and find out the names of contacts. He would then get in touch with them himself and make them deal with him directly. It was impossible to do your job. The most valuable thing a journalist has are their contacts. There are stocks in trade. It was a classic campaign of constructive dismissal. He knew what he was doing. A different member of staff became thinner and thinner and cried every day. They worked for Wootton, who they said destroyed them physically and mentally. Another editorial worker said there were months and months of real bullying, mind games and heavy emails, often late at night, so bad they ruined your sleep. Just as News UK started questioning last night about Wootton's conduct, they're bringing in some kind of external legal counsel to oversee a HR investigation. Bylines can exclusively reveal that this is actually not the first time Wootton's relationship with its HR department has been questioned. It was also questioned in 2018 as Private Eye reported an admission about Wootton, without naming him, about bullying complaints. The magazine told how a tired and emotional former head of HR, Rachel Martin, who liked Wootton, is from New Zealand, had told a group of journalists drinking in a pub that she was actually trying to protect Dan Wootton during a probe that was overseeing his conduct. Wow, guys, talk about connections and protection. Byline Times has learned that one of the Sun's 6 victims on legal advice went above Rachel Martin with a complaint. As a result, News UK was obliged to use HR professionals attached to a sister company called Wireless to oversee, which led to an even larger settlement. Dan got so many perks and so much access, it was easy for him to ingratiate himself. He made sure Rachel Martin was his best mate. The list of complaints about Wootton did not stop there, as he was continuously asked to be promoted and pay rises as well. But he had a decisive falling out with current editor Victoria Newton. In February 2020, on her first day in the role, Wootton left Newton furious by demanding she promote him, promoting a cute move by the new editor, who reached out to Wootton's best remaining royal contact and placed them on a special retainer, ensuring that they dealt exclusively with her. This was the beginning of the end for Dan. He didn't like having the same move pulled on him that he had done onto so many other contacts, which therefore resulted in him leaving and going to GB News as well. He also, during his time on Twitter, especially in January 2020, in relation to Philip Schofield, said, as one of Philip Schofield's closest colleagues at ITV for many years, his comments on the bullying reports are also very revealing. I will never negate those allegations because they are valid. If these people are all coming forward, then there's no smoke without fire. Whoa. That is what he said about Philip Schofield. I'm going to leave it at that. If that's what he's saying about Philip Schofield, why doesn't the same rule apply to him? If you like Dan Wootton still, after so many victims have come forward regarding this, why don't the same rules apply to him? If he's saying, especially about Philip or Harvey Weinstein or whoever he's spoken about, there's no smoke without fire. We shouldn't ignore these allegations. Even though they are just allegations, we should ignore them. We should listen to them. Why is he still on TV? There should be an investigation. Why doesn't those same rules apply to him if he's saying that about everybody else? Relentless hounding. The moral compasser. The first guy with, running the witch hunt, rightly or wrongly so. Why don't the same rules apply to you? In this fresh article, these are different victims coming forth. They're coming forth from bullying allegations, becoming thinner and thinner, crying every day, having these settlements. Somebody brought a knife to say, you want to slit my wrist because I can't deal with this anymore. The fact that you're, siding with somebody who's been bullying me for so long, mentally, it's way too much for me. The bullying claims are completely different from the ex who came out with those tapes where he found them behind the washing machine. Completely different from that sex worker who came out and said that he was drugged and R-worded by him. Completely different. These are a separate batch of victims. How many more victims are there, allegedly, that are coming forth in regard to this man for some people to actually realize and understand this is not who people want him to be because they have an idea of him on his head. He's come to say how, they're threatening to take down GB News. This is what he's trying to say, throwing out that bait so you can catch it. And a lot of people are catching this bait and believing it. There's no threat to take down GB News. Nobody's desperate to take down GB News. That's not what's happening here. There are victims coming forth allegedly because of your behavior towards them, and therefore it's being addressed, and also you're being exposed as the form of a hypocrite at this point because you've caused harm to people. If you are involved in something publicly or privately where you have caused harm to people, and there's numerous people coming forth, nearly 10 at this point, they all can't be lying. And if it's harm to somebody, it should be listened to, much like he said about Philip Schofield when there were allegations coming about him, whether it's bullying claims at the studios or boys being contacted, etc., etc. Like, the apple does not fall far from the tree. Clearly, when it comes to all of these men, what do they all have in common? They're all much older men using their power, their connections, and abusing it, especially when it comes to young people, whether they're colleagues, whether they're, in a way of using workers, sex workers, or etc. And of course, catfishing, a lot of this stuff, taking videos without consent, all of these allegations are ridiculously strong, yet he's still on GB News reporting. And apparently, I don't know if this is true, but the viewer ratings for GB News were far more higher than it ever actually was, and much higher than Sky News, which shows A, that people are interested in seeing his face in regards to what is going on with the media storm, but also B, to me, it does seem like, unfortunately, that he's not going anywhere. That the fact that the GB News are still going to hold him, they're protecting him, he's still on their channel, he's still employed with all these allegations that have come so forth and are so strong, he's still employed. He's not going to go anywhere regardless of what is coming out when it comes to Byline Times. And the fact that it's caused a storm on Twitter and online media, nothing's going to happen to this man. He definitely does seem untouchable, especially because other articles like the Daily Mail and the Sun are not reporting on this. You would think, based on this, that he left the Sun due to a dispute, that they would speak on it. But his connections are that strong. It's not happening. It's not going that way. These are significant bullying claims that have come out from people who, of course, have come up privately because they're very scared. And I feel like this all should be listened to. So to me, it's bizarre people defend this person because, again, if it was Philip Schofield this was accused by, if it was Byline Times about Philip Schofield, everybody would be salivating over this information. So it just seems very duplicitous to me. Let me know your thoughts on when it comes to this, guys. Subscribe to the channel, click that button. It is daily and consistent content, fresh, new allegations Dan Wootton is being rocked by. Again, if I'm speaking too fast, there are, a button on this video where you can slow down this video as I speak so that, you can be far more clearer for you if that is an issue, because I feel like some of you guys say I speak too fast, but, I don't read from a script. You know, I'm from London. We speak fast. It is what it is. I'm not from the, you know, the country, etc., where, you know, people may speak a little more slowly, like some of my friends do. I naturally speak very fast, guys. Also, it might be the espresso talking. Subscribe to the channel, click that button. It is daily and consistent content, and I'll catch you guys soon for another review.